I started in January 2016. Initially, I started as a patrol officer. Did about 5 years there, and actually, exactly 5 years later, January of 2021, I went to CID. I did that for approximately about a year and a half, somewhere around there. And after that, the position finally opened back up to do K9, and that's exactly what I wanted when I started here, so that's what I did. One of the very first conversations I had with the chief before even getting hired on here, he kind of asked me what I wanted to do in this department, and one of the first things I said to him was to be a canine handler. And almost 6 years later, that actually came true, so I applied for it and I got it. I came from the Air Force as well. I did 4 years in the Air Force, and while I was in the Air Force, I also applied to be a canine handler there as well. I did that for a little bit, trained with that a little bit, so I knew that was something I always wanted to do. Stash currently is a 2-year-old Belgian Malinois. He came from Holland. He was picked up, he was hand selected by the instructor that I had. His name is Dave Blosser. He works for Tri-State Canine Services out in Warren, Ohio. He selected him, selected him through Holland, brought him over to his training facility where he trained him for his first, I think he got him when he was like 9. He trained him for his first year before I was selected and got to handpick him. Lieutenant Cousins and I went to Warren, Ohio, hand selected Stash amongst probably about 10, 15 other dogs. Stash was the one that was chosen. So we sit there and evaluated all the dogs there. Initially, we narrowed it down to 3 dogs. Stash is just the one that stuck out to us the most. The instructor that I told you about earlier at Tri-State Canine, we went up there for 5 weeks, and me and Stash trained together for 5 weeks in Warren, Ohio. We also certified while we were up there through Napawata, so when we come back with our certification, and as soon as we got back from Ohio, we were ready to go to work as soon as we got back. So foot means I want him to come. Foot's not a Dutch command. Foot, so I want him to come right to my foot, and just like that. Off means he's down. Fly means he stays. He has a bite command. He has a release command, so if you were to give him his toy right now and I wanted him to release the toy, I would just give him the command of los. He is a dual purpose dog, so he's trained on both narcotic searches and he's also trained on patrol work. So as a narcotic section of it, foot. As a narcotic section of it, off, fly. As a narcotic section of it, he is trained in methamphetamine, heroin, and cocaine. That is his patrol work, that's his narcotic searches there. He's also trained in patrol work, so he does criminal apprehensions. He'll do tracking, article searches, things of that nature. When the canines are at the top of their game, they can detect illegal narcotics, seize cash, seize vehicles, buildings, houses, so on and so forth. So all in all, it helps out in the long run. It also is another officer safety tool. So quiet, off. It's another officer safety tool. So where we're searching somebody that is maybe a violent person, instead of sending officers in harm's way, we can send a way faster, speedy K9 to apprehend him, giving us the upper hand to try to help in apprehensions there. So currently we have 4 canines. Stash is the only canine that is back on night shift. So before we had 2 narcotic canines on day shift, opposite day shifts, and then we also have 1 explosive canine on day shift, but Stash will be the first canine to go back on night shift. Now all of those did go on night shift, but they are no longer on night shift. So Stash kind of filled a gap to help out with that night shift call volume.